Hey guys, Pastor Reed here. I just want to give you a little bit of encouragement in the middle of our week. As a kid, I loved the worship service. The church I grew up in had an absolutely fantastic children's ministry with people that did an amazing job, and I can remember them to this day. But when I was little, my parents could sometimes get me to go down to the children's wing, where for me the real magic happened was in worship. Listening to people sing songs, listening to the sermon. There was something special about that place, that space with those people. As I grew up, it began, the kind of the shine began to fade away. And going to worship wasn't necessarily the thing that I loved. I loved going to, when I got into high school, I loved going to youth group and singing the songs that I knew that I loved with my peers, and with, with the simple guitar, and the, as I've grown up, I've come to realize that I'm not the only one that's like that. That I'm not the only one that really just likes their style of worship. One of my friends, a person that's near and dear to my heart, we were colleagues at a church. She was a children's minister and I was the youth pastor. She relayed to me this experience of going to chapel when she was a professor at a Christian college. And she would go to worship and she would sit in silence, as was her tradition as a Quaker. And the students around her would begin to be rude. And they would say to her, you're really hindering my ability to worship. And when she relayed this story to me, I thought, wow, that is incredibly sad. It's incredibly sad to me that somebody could be so distracted by silence in the midst of singing and loudness. It was sad to me that somebody would feel free enough to tell somebody else that the way that they went before the Lord was wrong. It was sad for me, and honestly, like as I've matured and I've grown up, and that story has stuck with me, and I've come to this place of realization where worship isn't about me or the style that I like or the thing that I want. It's about in some way worshiping God, celebrating the goodness of God, celebrating what it is that He has done for us. When my own preferences get in the way of doing that, my preferences become bigger than He is. Now, I don't want this to be a downer, but I want you to ponder, perhaps, has this become the place where you are in your heart? If so, this may be for you. There are two different words, two different Greek words in the New Testament used for worship. The first is proskuneo, and that is worship. If you might be able to hear in there the word prostrate, and that means you laying down before God, putting yourself bare in an act of worship. And the second word is latreo, and that's like service. That's service as an act of worship. That's an active, ongoing thing that you do. It's a way about, it's more than about going to a place to do something once a week. It's this word conveys this image of, it's an active way that you're living life. And Paul in Romans chapter 12 verses 1 and 2 says to us, he says, I appeal to you, therefore, brothers, by the mercies of God, to present your bodies as a living sacrifice, holy and acceptable to God, which is your spiritual worship, which is your lutreo. Do not be conformed to this world, but be transformed by the renewal of your mind, that by testing you may discern what is the will of God, what is good and acceptable and perfect. And so here's what Paul is saying to us. He's saying, lay down your life, lay down your preconceived notions, lay down your heartaches, lay down your prejudices, lay it all down before the Lord in worship, or in service to others, in service to Him, in service as you live your life. Lay it down. Lay it down. Lay down your life day in and day out as a holy, a thing that's set apart, and a thing that is acceptable, that is righteous, that is right before God. So he's telling us that every day is meant to be an act of worship to God, a laying down of our lives, of our priorities, of our desires before God. Why? Because in verse 2 it says, do not be conformed to this world. Don't be like other people do who seek to live their lives for themselves, but be transformed by the renewing of your mind, the Spirit of God actively working in your mind, that you come to a place where you are able to test and to see and discern what is the good and perfect will of God. Worship is more than just about going to a place. It's about laying our lives down, living living in such a way where we are worshiping God day in and day out, giving over to Him our desires, giving over to Him our wants, giving over to Him our prejudices, giving it all over to Him, that He would transform us in our very minds so that we could know Him more deeply and fully. So tomorrow and the next day and the next day and the next day and the next day and the next day, make it a point to in the morning say, today, Lord, I will worship you with my whole being, with my whole self, with my whole mind. Be blessed, and we'll see you soon.